Hook, you are watching our YouTube channel Everyday Grace Stories. You will get kindness story, emotional story to see people on our channel like your video, share your video and comments. Our encourage will increase. And we will bring mosques good videos for you guys. You are with us. We go towards the video. He looked like he was about to fall face first onto the floor. His chair tipped slightly, his hand fumbled for balance, and his head drooped as if the weight of his life was pressing down on him all at once. The restaurant was busy, waiters moving back and forth, glasses clinking, voices filling the air. But in that one moment, all Emily saw was this man, slipping, vulnerable, seconds away from hurting himself. Without hesitation, she let go of the tray in her hands, ignoring the crash of plates and the startled gasps around her. She reached him just in time, grabbing his arm and steadying his swaying body. He blinked, surprised, embarrassed, but managed a weak thank you. To him, it might have seemed small. To her, it was instinct. What neither of them realized was that this single act would ripple far beyond that moment, changing both their lives forever. Emily wasn't a woman who had time for grand gestures. She wasn't wealthy, powerful, or someone the world would stop to notice. She was a struggling waitress working long shifts at a restaurant, just to keep the lights on at home. Every morning, she woke up before dawn to prepare her daughter Lily for school, packing a simple lunch with whatever she could afford. Every night, she returned late, her feet aching, her apron stained, but her heart determined. Life had not been kind to her, but she refused to let her little girl grow up without hope. That night had been especially difficult. The tips were small, the customers demanding, and the weight of unpaid bills gnawed at the back of her mind. Still, when she saw the drunk man about to fall, she didn't hesitate. It wasn't in her nature to ignore someone in need. She didn't know his name, his story, or his past. She just knew he needed help. And in helping him, she unknowingly set into motion something she could never have imagined. The man's name was Richard. To the world outside those restaurant walls, he was someone important, the CEO of the entire restaurant chain. But in that moment, sitting alone with too many empty glasses in front of him, he was just a man drowning in regret. Years of chasing success had cost him his family, his happiness, and even his sense of self. He came to that restaurant not to oversee business, not to flaunt his status, but to escape the silence of his empty home. He drank to forget, to dull the ache, to fill the emptiness, and then, when he nearly fell, someone caught him. Not because of who he was, not because of what he owned, but simply because she cared enough to stop and help. For Emily, it was just another night of work. For Richard, it was the first time in a long time that someone had reminded him he was still human, still worthy of kindness. That moment planted something inside him, a small spark of gratitude, a seed of change he didn't fully understand yet. Over the next few days, Richard couldn't stop thinking about the waitress. He remembered the way she smiled, not out of obligation, but out of genuine concern. He thought about the exhaustion in her eyes and the quiet strength in her voice. She didn't know him, yet her compassion had touched him more deeply than anything had in years. He began to wonder about her life, about what struggles she carried, about how someone with so little could still give so much. Emily, on the other hand, quickly moved on from the incident. She had bigger things to worry about. Rent was due, Lily needed new shoes, and her manager had already scolded her for breaking the dishes when she saved the man. Still, she didn't regret it. She had always believed that kindness, even when unnoticed, mattered. To her, it wasn't about rewards or recognition. It was about being the kind of person she hoped Lily would grow up to be. Then, 1 week later, everything changed. Emily was called into the manager's office. Nervous, she braced herself for the worst, afraid she might be fired. But instead, her manager handed her an envelope. Inside was a letter written in elegant handwriting. As she read the words, her hands began to tremble. The man she had saved was no ordinary customer. He was the CEO. He wrote about how her simple act of compassion had touched him at a time when he had nearly given up on himself. He admitted he had been broken, lost, and ashamed, but her kindness reminded him that people still cared, even when he didn't believe he deserved it. Along with the letter was a check, enough money to pay off her debts and secure stability for months. But that wasn't all. He also offered her a scholarship to finish her education, something she had long given up on, and if she wanted, a management position within the company when she was ready. Richard ended the letter with words that brought tears to her eyes. "Your kindness saved me from falling that night, but more than that, it reminded me that even small acts of grace can change the course of a life. I hope this gift helps you as much as you helped me." Emily sat in silence, overwhelmed. She had never expected anything in return. She didn't help him because he was important, or because he could reward her. She didn't even know who he was. She helped because it was the right thing to do. And yet, her small gesture had come back to her in a way she never imagined. The story of Emily and Richard reminds us of a powerful truth. Kindness can change lives in unexpected ways. One small act, catching someone before they fell, offering a smile, showing concern, may seem insignificant in the moment, but to the person receiving it, it can mean the world. It can plant hope where there was despair, courage where there was fear, and light where there was darkness. Emily's kindness gave Richard a reason to rise again, and in return, his gratitude gave Emily and her daughter a chance at a brighter future. Neither of them could have predicted it. Neither of them planned it. Yet their lives intertwined through a single act of compassion, proving that no gesture of kindness is ever wasted. So the next time you have the chance to help someone, even in the smallest way, remember Emily's story. You never know whose life you might touch, or how deeply they might touch yours in return. The restaurant was loud with chatter and clinking glasses, but Emily barely heard any of it. Her mind was too full of worries. Rent was due in 3 days, the electric bill had come with another warning, and her daughter Lily had asked that morning if they could buy a new backpack for school because hers had a broken zipper. Emily had smiled at her daughter, kissed her cheek, and said, "Maybe next week, sweetheart." But she knew the truth. Every dollar was already stretched thinner than thin. Still, she pushed her worries aside, tied her apron a little tighter, and walked back onto the floor with a practiced smile. That was her way. Life had taught her to keep going, no matter how heavy the burden felt. That night, as she moved between tables with trays balanced in her hands, she noticed a man sitting off to the side. He was older, well-dressed but disheveled, his tie loosened, his eyes red and weary. He didn't laugh with the group he was with, didn't join in their conversations. He just kept drinking, glass after glass, as if each sip was an attempt to bury something inside him. When she passed his table, she felt it, an aura of defeat, the kind of heaviness she knew all too well. Later, as he tried to stand, his chair tilted and his body swayed. For a moment, it looked like he would crash to the floor. Without thinking, Emily dropped the tray in her hands and rushed forward, catching his arm just in time. Plates shattered behind her, but she didn't care. She steadied him, her voice soft but firm. "Careful, sir." Their eyes met, and for a brief second, something passed between them. Recognition, perhaps, or the unspoken understanding of two people who had been carrying too much for far too long. He muttered a quiet "thank you." Embarrassed, ashamed even, but she just offered a small, weary smile before returning to her work. To her, it was instinct. To him, it was something far greater. His name was Richard. Out in the world, he was the CEO of the entire restaurant chain, a man of wealth, power, and influence. But behind the polished title was a hollow man. His wife had left him, taking their son with her, tired of living with someone who was married more to his work than to his family. He had built a business empire, yes, but in the process, he had destroyed his own home. Every night he came back to silence. Every morning he woke with a sense of emptiness that no success could fill. On this particular night, he had come to the restaurant not to oversee, not to celebrate, but to escape. He was drinking to numb the ache, and then a waitress, a woman he had never met before, caught him before he could fall. It wasn't just her steady hands that left an impression. It was the way she looked at him, not with judgment, not with pity, but with simple human concern. Afterward, when the restaurant grew quieter, she even placed a glass of water in front of him without being asked. "This will help," she said softly. She didn't know who he was, didn't know the scale of his problems, didn't even have time to linger. She had tables to clean, dishes to serve, and a child waiting at home. Yet in that moment, Richard felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, seen. Emily's life was hard, but she lived it with quiet strength. She woke before sunrise, kissed her daughter goodbye, and walked to work in worn shoes because she couldn't afford a car. She endured rude customers, long hours, and aching feet, all while holding on to the hope that she could give Lily a better future. There were nights she cried quietly so her daughter wouldn't hear. There were mornings she wanted nothing more than to stay in bed, but she got up anyway. She kept moving, kept smiling when she could, kept surviving. She wasn't extraordinary in the eyes of the world, but to Richard, she became extraordinary because she refused to break. For the next several days, he couldn't stop thinking about her. He thought about how she carried herself, tired, yes, but determined. He thought about the way she spoke about her daughter with love, even though life had given her so little. He realized that her resilience was something he had lost long ago. He had money, but he didn't have her kind of strength. He had power, but he didn't have her kind of courage. In her quiet struggle, she embodied something he desperately needed: hope. Richard found himself reflecting on his own choices. He had always believed that success was measured in profits, in expansion, in dominance over competitors. But here was a woman, living paycheck to paycheck, raising a child alone, and still finding ways to be kind to strangers, and it struck him, true strength wasn't about wealth or status, it was about perseverance. It was about showing up every day, even when everything inside you wanted to give up. 1 week later, Emily was summoned to the manager's office. She feared the worst, certain she was about to be fired for breaking the plates that night. Instead, the manager handed her an envelope. Inside was a letter that made her hands tremble as she read. It was from Richard. In it, he revealed his true identity as the CEO. He wrote that her quiet resilience had inspired him at a time when he had nearly lost all meaning in life. "You reminded me," he wrote, "that strength isn't loud. Sometimes it is the quiet endurance of someone who refuses to give up. You reminded me that perseverance carries not only ourselves, but also gives hope to others who have lost their way." Along with the letter was a generous check to ease her financial burdens and an offer, a scholarship to complete her education, and a secure position in management if she wished to take it. Tears welled in Emily's eyes as she read his words again and again. She had never expected her struggle to inspire anyone. She had only been trying to survive for her daughter's sake. Yet her perseverance had not gone unnoticed. That moment changed both of them. For Emily, it meant stability, a chance at fulfilling dreams she thought she had lost forever. For Richard, it meant rediscovering meaning, remembering that humanity mattered more than profit margins. Her resilience became the mirror that forced him to face his own emptiness and start again. And this is what makes their story timeless. Emily's struggle didn't just carry her through hard times. It lit a spark in someone else. It gave him courage to face his failures, to rebuild, to believe that it was never too late to change. Her strength wasn't loud or glamorous. It was in the way she kept showing up, kept moving forward, kept loving her daughter despite everything. That was what inspired him. That was what reminded him of what life was truly about. Strength in struggle doesn't just help us survive, it inspires those who witness it. Emily never set out to inspire anyone. She was just a mother doing her best, but her quiet resilience became the reason a powerful man found hope again. And that is the lesson. We never know who is watching, who might draw strength from our perseverance. By enduring, by refusing to quit, we might not only carry ourselves, we might also give someone else the courage to rise again.